Hey folks, today we are talking ribs. I'm going to be sharing with you my recipe and the way I cook my ribs. I call them my 1 hour ribs. Um, I like ribs, but I just don't like spending the time that it takes to cook them on a grill. You know, you got to sit out there and grill for 3-4 hours to get a nice tender rib. And so I figured I'm going to find a way to cook these ribs that's going to taste like they're grilled on it for 3 hours. But in actuality, it only takes just a little bit over an hour, about 1 hour and 5 minutes at the most. And so how I'm going to do that is I've got my ribs here. We buy our ribs at Costco, so they are nice, meaty ribs. They're not really bony things because I don't want to buy a bag of bones. And so what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to spice them up, and after I get them spiced up, then I'm going to turn on this pot here. These ribs are actually most of the time cooked. They are steamed, and just like the last 15 minutes of cooking, they will be in the oven. So the process is I'm going to spice them up, and after all the spices are on there, then I'm going to turn on the steamer and let that come to a boil. And while it's coming to a boil, the spice on there is going to start drawing the moisture out of the ribs, and it's going to be combining the flavors of all that moisture into the liquid that comes out, and so that's going to soak back into the meat. And then while they're in the steamer cooking, the same process is going to happen. So all that meat is going to be flavored by all the spices without the overnight dry rub brining that most people generally do with the ribs. Let them set in the refrigerator overnight to get the flavor in there. This cuts all of that out. It gets the flavor in the meat. So let's go ahead and start with the ribs. What I got here is my little steak knife. This is a very important step. Is you take anything, it doesn't have to be a steak knife, something with a sharp point on it, and you just go around the rib and just start poking holes all in it. Just little holes all the way through it. And what this is going to do is when the salt gets on here and it starts drawing the moisture out of the ribs, that liquid is going to be able to go back down into these little holes and sink into the meat. Therefore, you ain't got to brine these things in the refrigerator overnight to get all that nice flavoring in there. Make sure you get the sides of the ribs, because like I said, these are nice meaty ribs. They're not bony. And I don't puncture the back, as you can see here at the back, because if you do that, the juice is going to run out the back. So as long as you leave the skin back here intact, the moisture will stay in the meat and not run out and drip out the back there. So, okay, that one's done. Go ahead and get this other one. Just go through it and just poke little holes in there. They don't have to be very deep, just enough to open it up to get that access for that spices and everything. Just drip in there. Okay, in the sides. There you go, the next one. And so when you're spicing these ribs up, I'm doing 3 different spice flavors here. But they all got one thing in common, they all got salt on them, and the salt is the first thing that you put on the meat, because the salt is what draws the moisture out of the meat, and that's what's going to mix with all the spices together and get it all blended in there. Okay, so I got that done. So like I got pink Himalayan salt. Use whatever salt you got, and just give them a nice good coating of salt, because remember these are being steamed, so a lot of this salt is going to get off of the ribs in the steamer. So even though it looks like a little bit, it's not a lot. And so they all start with the salt. A nice good dousing of salt. And this is that pink Himalayan salt, so it's got a lot of them good healthy minerals in there. Okay, you got the salt there, and you just want to go ahead and just smack it around a little bit. You can wear gloves for this if you want. I know a lot of people don't like touching meat with your bare hands. Me, I don't mind. Well, the only meat I don't like to touch with bare hands is chicken. Chicken sort of makes me yak, raw chicken, but get that good. The next spice I put on all of them, every single one, is black pepper. I don't put a lot, just enough to give it a nice flavor. So just a light dusting on each one. But after this is where the difference in the spices come in. Okay, so that's a black pepper. So on this one here, what I'm just going to pretty much do is I got onion powder. If you don't have onion powder, that's fine. You can. Sometimes I'll even take fresh onions and just blend them up and make a paste, but that's a lot of liquid, so I'll just use onion powder for now. This is the way I like doing it with the onion powder. Get a good amount on there. Like I said, in the steamer, some of this is going to come off. I got onion powder, garlic powder. Got to have the garlic. And you know, you want to go liberal with these spices, because some will come off during the cooking process, as I keep saying. So there we go. And don't worry about all this stuff on the board. I'm going to show what we're going to do with that. And for this one, I'm making it kind of spicy. So what I got here, this is not onion powder. I make a Taiwanese style fried chicken, and this is the spice mix that I make. You can look at my video on the Taiwanese fried chicken and get the recipe for this spice mix. It's a very spicy, so it gives everything a nice spicy flavor. I even use this after the ribs are done sometimes to put a little bit more on there. Okay, got that one there. Now, so what I'm gonna do is take the ribs, remove all the spice on the board to get the ends there. You just flip it over like that. And so that's gonna get all that spice on the back of the rib there. So you don't waste none of it. Okay, so that one's there. And this one here, I'm gonna do an adobo. So it just, I bet it's El Mexicano. It's an adobo spice, I really like it. If you know how to make adobo spicing yourself, you can, but it's just easy to buy it. And again, you wanna give it a good layer of this spice. Unless you don't like spicy, then you can, of course, you can put any spice combination that you like on it, because, you know, it's your ribs. So cook them the way you like. But this is what I like. That's a nice layer. And that is all I'm going to put there. And of course, I'm going to give it a nice little pat to get that in there. And so since that salt was on there first, it's going to start drawing the moisture out now. And then it will take and get all that together and pull it right back into the meat. Got that one there. Now the last rib I'm doing, this is a spice I like. This is a spice that we got in, a friend of ours in Taichung, Taiwan gave it to us, and I really like the spice. So yeah, oops, I need to open it up here. It's kind of spicy. It's got white pepper and all sorts of good stuff in there. You might be able to even find it here in the States at some of the Asian markets if you look hard enough. But so yeah, I mean, it's got a little hole thing on there you can put back on there. And you just give it a nice, good dusting with that. This has got white pepper in there and maybe a little bit of cumin and who knows what else, but it's really good. Yeah, you can smell it. Put that on there. And the last thing I'm going to put on there is, I got ground coriander. I'm going to put that on there. It gives it an interesting flavor. Okay, finish that up. And again, give it a good smack down. Flip it over, grab that side. Get the spices on the board. There we go. Give it a good smack down. As you can see now, these ribs here, you can, well, let me get all that stuff out of the way there. You can see the moisture start coming out, and so that salt's drawing the moisture out of the ribs and the water, and it's going to be mixing that all up together. And it's going to be sucking them right back into that meat. And so now I'm going to let these sit on the counter. I'm turning on the steamer. And you steam these things for 45 minutes. So make sure that you got enough water in your steamer to start with, because you don't want to add cold water to your steamer during the cooking process if you run out, because that's going to cool the temperature down and it's going to affect the way the ribs are cooked. So make sure you got enough water in there from the get-go to get you full 45 minutes of steaming, because we are steaming these things on full bore. I mean, it's got to be nice and hot, and it's going to cook these things up fantastic. And then once they're steamed up, I'm going to come back. We're going to put them in the oven. What I do is I just put the oven on broil, just get it really hot. And then of course, then you can put your sauce on there if you've chosen, and you put them in the broiler. But we will talk about that when it gets to that point. So right now I've got the steamer going on. And when it comes to boil, I'll come back and I'll show you what I mean by full bore. All right, we'll see you in just a few minutes. Okay folks, the steamer, as you can see, it is rolling now. The water is rolling, it's boiling in there, it's hot. And so now we're going to put these ribs back in here. And just in the time it took the steamer to heat up the boil, I'm guessing about 5 minutes or so, the meat, you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's drawn all the moisture, you can see it shining. And so that salt has got them juices coming out there, and it's blending all those spices together, and it's sucking it back in there. It's getting that flavor in there. And so what I'm going to do now is just going to put them in here in the steamer. Open this up, always open the steamer away from your face, because that steam comes out of there and it is hot. So I'm going to set that down there, and I'm just going to put these ribs, I mean, directly on the rack. There's no paper under them, there's nothing under them. Just put them in there. and they will, it's a tight fit, but if not, if you got multiple layer, you can just put that in there, and they will shrink a little bit as they're cooking, so that's okay. Okay, I got them all in there now, leveled down. I'm going to put this lid back on there. Again, the steamer's on high, it's boiling. You don't want to open it, just let it cook. I know my steamer's got a little glass thing on top of the lid, but when it gets steaming there, you ain't seeing nothing down in there. So I just, after 45 minutes, I know they're going to be done. They're going to be steamed. They're going to be tender. They're going to be juicy. And of course, come that time, you could always just take a little knife and a fork, you know, and just cut you off a little piece and give it a sample, make sure it's done enough for you, tender enough. But I find 45 minutes at a full steam, I mean, that is going to get in there 400 or 500 degrees, that steam is, and it's going to cook them ribs. The steam is going to keep the moisture in them, the spice is going to get in them. I mean, these ribs are just, So anyway, 45 minutes, we'll steam these. I'll come back and I'll show you the next steps. Okay, folks, I just turned off the steamer. These ribs are ready to come out. They are done. Well, not quite done, but like I said, we're going to take them out of there, put them in here, rub a little sauce on them, and then we're going to put them in the broiler. The oven, I turned the oven on about the last 10 minutes they were steaming. These steamed actually about 35 minutes, and it got them really done. So after half an hour, you know, start checking them to your likeness. But leaving them in 45 minutes is not going to hurt a thing. They'll be nice and tender, well done. With me though, I just don't like, personally, I don't like the meat when it falls off the bone. I like a little bit of chew left to it. So these are perfect for me. But in the last 10 minutes, I took and turned my oven on to high broil. I got that all heated up, so it's ready to go. I got my pan out. And while they were steaming, I made a little sauce. We don't like the sauces from the stores because they're mostly sugar, and we don't like to eat a lot of sugar. So I just make my own sauce, you know, just the orange zest and some horseradish and stuff in there. So I just make my own sauce. And what I'm going to do is take these ribs out of here. Got a little paper towel here. I'm going to give a little pat to get some of that moisture off of them, dry them up a little bit. That way the sauce sticks to them. And then I'm going to stick them in the oven. So let's see what we got. Again, always open up a steamer away from your face because that stuff will take your eyebrows. All right, get a little tongs here. Oh yeah. There we go. As you can see, they are nice and done. The meat starts to shrink up on the bone. So that's a good sign that they're done. So just let the water drip off of them because they are steamed. Then put them on the pan. There we go. As you can see, again, you can see where the meat has started to shrink away from the bone, so that's a good sign they're done. All right, put them down there. And so now I'm just gonna put this lid back on this steamer to keep steam out of my face. Now I've got this paper towel. I'm just gonna give it a good little dab like that. If I see any water standing, any juice standing on it, I'm just gonna dab that off. Because you don't want to dab it too much because you will take the spice off the top, and that's the good stuff. And so now I'm going to take my sauce here. Like I said, it's just orange zest, a little horseradish, some Korean chili paste. Yeah, if you're interested in the sauce, just let me know and I'll do a video on the sauce. It's a spicy sauce, so if you don't like spicy, it might not be the way to go. But anyway, I'm just going to take it here and dab it there, and just, you don't want to rub it, you want to dab it. Because if you start trying to paint it, it's going to take everything off the top, and we want that on the top. We want that crust to form in that oven. Hence is why I put a little bit of orange juice and zest in here. It gets a little bit of natural sugar, and so that's going to create that nice little glaze. It will caramelize a little bit, but it's not a lot of sugar, just what sugar you get from the orange juice and the orange zest. Not to mention nice flavor. There we go. And dab it on there. Yeah, you always want to dab, never paint. You'll see a lot of the professional barbecue guys, they got like, looks like a mop, and that's what they call mopping it on. So, but I like this little rubber thing. It washes, it's replaceable. You can use it over and over again. So yeah, dab as much as you want on there. Just keep on dabbing. And these are going to go in this hot oven. Usually about 15 minutes, depending on how hot your oven gets. I put the rack down, it's about 9 inches from the broiler. You know, on the top of the oven, you got the big electric burner there, because I got an electric oven. And so about 8 to 10 inches from that is what you want. You don't want it too close or else you'll just burn your meat and it won't get that caramelizing on there. But once you put it in the oven, always keep an eye on it. I like to put it in there until the edges around the meat starts to get a little bit black, a little burnt, and that's always good. When you're eating it there, get a little caramelization. Okay, I think I've got it all. Use all that sauce just enough. Boy, that's gonna be some good eating right here. Next video, I'm going to be doing a dessert. I haven't done many dessert videos, so I'm going to be doing I call them carrot cake bite truffles. It's gluten-free, all that good stuff free. Little carrot cake bites. It's got coconut and it's dipped in chocolate. So they're pretty good. Okay, that is done. Now I'm going to throw these in the oven. About 15 minutes, at the max 15, until I just look in there and get the nice crust and the color I want. Like I said, I like a little bit charred around the edges and a little bit of burnt pieces so they can burnt in. And then once this is done, I will come back and take them out of the oven and show you what we got. So, okay, I will see you in just a bit. Okay, everybody, the ribs have been in the oven for 15 minutes and they are ready. I just took them out. I just let them rest for about 2 or 3 minutes, to get the juices to relax back in the ribs. And so as you can see, if you want to zoom in here, baby, on the ribs, you can see that they're done. They got a little char, little burnt ends on them. That's just the way I like them. That's the tasty part. The little sauce I put on them, it gave them a little glaze, but again, there was no sugar in there, no real sugar, just some orange juice and some orange zest, so that's natural sugar. So this total meal here, this is all keto, so you can eat this. If you're diabetic, whatever, you can eat this. It's spicy. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this little baby rack here. That way you guys can see the inside of it. So just give me 1 second, get this out of the way here, and I'll just put that thing back on the board. Set that there. Grab me a rib. There we go. Put that on the board there. See if it's cool enough to touch my hand. As you can see, this side did not get brown, which is just fine. That's just the way I like it. This held in all the juices, but the top side and the important parts, it's all crusted. It is just fantastic. My wife, she not a meat eater, but she can put these things away. You can see that open up there. That's all done. You can see the juices in there. That's just a fantastic tasting rib and all that flavors in the meat. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut these ribs here. Cut them all down. And of course, the longer you let them rest, the more juice will go down in them. These are really hot now. I just want to give you guys a good look at it. You can probably hear that juice running in them and see that juice in there. And so what we're going to serve these tonight is we're just going to serve them with some kale. And that meal right there is healthy, nutritious, keto. I mean, that's just a fantastic meal for anybody. So yeah, if you don't, everybody will enjoy that. All right, folks, these ribs here totally took today. From the time I put them in the steamer oven, about 55 minutes. They didn't quite take an hour. I didn't have to worry about walking out to the grill and flipping them over because they're going to burn on one side or keeping the temperature right on the grill. They were steamed. There was no chance of burning them. I put them in the oven to finish them off with the sauce on there. And these ribs are just as good as any 3-hour-long cooked ribs that you can. So, hope you like it, you try it. And the channel, of course, all the YouTube stuff, like, share, subscribe, comment. Any requests for recipes that you'd like to see me cook, just let me know and I'll be happy to do it for you. And until next time, God bless and good eats.